You're listening to Systemic Era Podcast. The failure was designed.
Sadistic savagery, Stephen Miller linked to vigilante force in new court filing, based on an article by David Edwards. Miller's deportation machine is not a mistake. It is the point. The real power center. This lawsuit is not about a rogue bureaucracy drifting out of control. It alleges that Stephen Miller, from inside the White House, helped coordinate a deportation campaign with private nationalist groups, including Betar, a group its own spokesperson allegedly described as a vigilante force. That is the core fact. State power did not merely drift into abuse, it was allegedly routed through people who wanted abuse and knew how to package it as policy. The target, Mahmoud Khalil, was not charged in some ordinary criminal process. He was arrested by plainclothes ICE agents, held for 104 days, and shipped more than 1,300 miles from his pregnant wife. That distance is not incidental. It is the logic of the system: isolate, intimidate, and make the punishment itself do the political work. The conspiracy is the story. The complaint says a Betar representative admitted to direct communications with Miller and Secretary of State Marco Rubio and handed over a pre-selected list of Palestinian activists to arrest and deport. If that allegation holds, then the state was not reacting to a threat. It was executing a list supplied by ideological auxiliaries. That matters because it exposes the fraud at the center of the administration's rhetoric. Miller did not sound like someone managing law enforcement. He sounded like someone laundering vengeance through official language. His ex-post about people who sympathize with terrorism being unwelcome and sent home is not neutral policy talk. It is political signaling to a deportation machine already in motion. ICE as a weapon. The article also points to the deeper institutional problem, ICE itself. Plainclothes arrests, detention far from family, and political targeting are not accidental distortions of a harmless agency. They are the normal capabilities of a force built for coercion first and accountability second. When an agency can seize a permanent resident, hold him for months, and do it in service of an ideological campaign, the issue is not whether the agency needs better training. The issue is that the agency is structurally suited to abuse. ICE should be abolished, not polished, rebranded, or reformed around the edges while it continues to serve as the enforcement arm of fear. The wrecking crew in the open. The lawsuit also names Victoria Coates and the Heritage Foundation's Project Esther, which the complaint says Miller helped develop. That detail matters because it shows the ecosystem around the White House. This is not just a man with a hard line. It is a network of think tank cover, ethno-nationalist grievance, and state coercion working in sync. The filing's quoted language about Palestinians being defined by sadistic savagery is the kind of dehumanization that makes repression easier to sell. First you strip people of political legitimacy, then you strip them of legal protection, then you pretend the result is ordinary governance. That is how authoritarian cruelty arrives wearing a suit. The judge saw the shape of it. A federal judge in a related case already described the broader operation as agents snatching people off the street in tactics akin to the despised Ku Klux Klan, meant to terrorize Americans into quiescence. That is not colorful judicial rhetoric. It is an accurate description of what intimidation looks like when it has been normalized into administrative practice. The point is not simply that this is ugly. The point is that it is functional. Fear suppresses dissent. Deportation suppresses organizing. Public examples teach everyone else to stay quiet. The machinery does not need to persuade the public, it only needs to scare enough people into silence. The pattern. This case reveals a familiar authoritarian sequence: identify a vulnerable group, fuse private zealots with state power, wrap the campaign in security language, and call the result enforcement. The misdirection is the point. The cruelty is not a side effect of the policy. It is the mechanism. Democratic politics has to name that structure plainly. When white-collar ideologues, nationalist street forces, and federal agents converge on a list of political targets, the story is not about administrative overreach. It is about a government using deportation as a tool of discipline. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Ross Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Sam, thanks for listening.